afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this amazing Edtech Summit. And I know that each one of you has been logged in and is really, really enjoying all the discussions that are taking place. It gives me great pleasure to host one of the sessions here. And in order to start the session, let me just say that, the WHO has suggested that similar epidemics or pandemics are going to be inevitable in times to come. And with that in mind, assuming that we never really will go back to a normal, so to say, how much do institutions need to change or prepare for in terms of alternate ways of teaching or learning or recruiting? Today, as we talk about adapting K12 and higher education to the new normal, we need to look at what worked, what may continue to work, and also how we can become more intentional about preparing for the future. Yeah. So with that, I welcome on stage my panelists, and I'll start with Anuradha, ma'am. Ms. Anuradha Handa is the principal of the GD Goenka school. Yeah, she should be joining us on as a panelist. We also have Ms. Kanchi, who is the director admissions at the Plaksha University with a great experience in liberal arts education. We also have Ms. Sweety Burrows, who is Director Admissions at the Indian School of Hospitality and making some great waves in the field of hospitality. We're also joined with a young principal from the Millenium School at Faridabad, Millenium World School at Faridabad, Ms. Sangeeta, Dhamija. Yeah, thank you all for joining in today. It's a great pleasure to have you on board. And we are all, of course, we've been through so much in this last year. Before we get started, it'll be lovely if you all would like to introduce yourself. We can start with you, Anuradha, ma'am.
A very good afternoon, Charushilla ji, and to everyone present here. So, I'm Anuradha Handa, Principal GD Goenka Public School, Sector 48, Gurgaon. So, 30 years in the field of education, looks ancient, kind, and but a great journey, having been with students as a teacher and now as a principal for the last 15 years. So I'm heading GD Goenka, which is an institution and a brand which has been in the field of education for 26 years now, and carries this beautiful vision of equipping children with the skills of life. As a school, when we came into existence, say good 26 years back, at that time, the kind of practices that were brought in were unheard of. And now that is something that, everyone is following, emphasizing on giving children a happy, positive, conducive, fun-filled environment, where there is a lot of emphasis on life skills and values, and that's what we stand for. So looking forward to have a great discussion and session, and look forward to learn in the process as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes. Over to Ms. Kanchi.
Hi, Charu, and thank you so much for having me today on this panel of really amazing and such an august gathering. I'm very happy to be here and happy to share my thoughts. As you know, Charu, I've been leading outreach and admissions teams at some of the universities that have recently come up in India. I was with Ashoka first as their director outreach for 4 years. Then I was with Kriya for 2.5 years as their director outreach and communications. And now I've joined the upcoming Plaksha University as their director admissions and outreach. And it's an exciting time with seeing such organization and institutions come up. And I think it's exciting, most exciting for students actually to have such opportunities in India. Plaksha is really reimagining technology education. We have more than enough engineering colleges and tech universities in India, but somebody really needed to reimagine the curriculum that is being taught there. And that's what Plaksha is really aiming to do. It's all from me.
Always hearing some wonderful things from Plaksha University, and we hope to hear more from you today. Yeah. Over to you, Sangeeta. Good afternoon, everybody, and special thanks to Charushilla for selecting me to be part of this panel this morning. I am Sangeeta Dhamija, Principal of Millenium World School, Faridabad. Though I am a principal for the last 2 years, but I have an experience of 28 years as a teacher, as a coordinator, as a vice principal, and I have been associated with all the progressive schools. And what just now Anuradha ma'am mentioned, that we have been doing project-based learning, experiential learning for the last maybe more than 2 decades now. And I believe that the children need to learn more of skill-based education nowadays. And with the new education policy coming up, I think this is a dream come true. So looking forward to a lot of fruitful engagement in this session and from all my counterparts. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Sweety Burrows, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charushilla. Thank you and good morning to everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Sweety and I represent the Indian School of Hospitality. I've been in education space now for 18 long years, having seen learning and development to overseas education, to vocational education for airlines, to travel and tourism, with some of the most leading brands, to sending students overseas to over 35 countries. And now I head colleges. Prior to this, I was heading 2 colleges in Mumbai, one for management and the other for media. And now I'm here with the Indian School of Hospitality for the last 4 years, bearing the flag high of an institute that is truly poised to reimagine hospitality education. The vision of our organization is to disrupt higher education for hospitality and allied sectors. And it's been 4 years, and we continue to keep on doing stellar work, keep on bearing the flag high. So that's from me, Charushilla.
So much. I think there are so many disruptors in this room today. So let me also put my 2 cents on disruption, because believe you me, as part of a college counseling and an education independent consulting venture, University Connection, we have also been, of course, this year completely gone online, started reaching out to parents and families, not only within the country, but outside, whether it's UAE or even Canada and the borders of United States. So there's so much happening in terms of adapting to this new normal. What I want to hear from this panel is, how do you think you have adapted to this new normal? Any new ideas that you have implemented as ventures, and how have you gone about doing this? Let's start, in fact, the reverse order then. Let's start with you, Sweety.
Great. Thank you for the question. It's a very apt question. Back in March, when India was now waking up to, okay, there is COVID and COVID has hit us. It's no longer a story that applied to China. I think it came to a point where we immediately recognized what it could have an implication and implication on students and their safety. So the first step that was taken in that direction was sending them home, even before the lockdown was announced. And that gave us a week's headway to be able to adapt ourselves completely online. So the students truly saying did not miss a single lecture, because something that was prevalent in the ethos of our organization was the use of technology. And the technology enablement that was already in place took us 24 hours to actually take everything online. We did make a lot of changes. There were a lot of adaptability that needed to be made. People had to get used to 100% online, and that is something both from students and facilitators' point of view. And but we were very pleased to see the agility and the flexibility that was shown in learning and adapting so quickly to the new normal, that we were quite overwhelmed with this. Yes, there have been a lot of new ideas that were implemented. Immediately, we recognized the way we evaluate, to the way we need to foster interaction between classes, because the ethos of education, which is international education here in India at ISH, is collaboration, is group work, it's peer learning, it's facilitator led, it's not really teacher led. So the idea is to bring out the best in the students, and now all of this was to be done on. So from choice of platform that allowed to us, from licenses that need to be procured, from everything that needed to be to be adapted, was just a minor tweak for us because we already had these. So that really helped us in a great way. And I think a lot of institutes have said that they have adapted quickly, and I'm proud to say that I was definitely one of them that was able to adapt. And the mindset, I think, was not only just the college, it was the student. It was of it laid actually with the students to be able to accept education now completely online and be ready to put in those hours in front of a screen and be able to stay interactive, keep their cameras on. One of the most common things that we hear. So
surely
new ideas.
That's wonderful to hear, and in fact, I'd be very keen to know what Ms. Dhamija has to say on this, because your school is at the cusp of becoming a full K12 institution. So what all did you end up implementing? Which means you were dealing with a younger lot at that end. So how did you engage with them, and how did you implement some new things or new ideas?
Yeah, thank you, Charu. So 19th March, we were in school, and 20th March, we got to know that everything was standstill and we are not going back to school. So it was an unprecedented change. We were thrown into a VUCA world where everything was volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and we really didn't know what to do. And the assessments were also pending. So one assessment was pending, which immediately we decided we are going to give average to the students and start preparing for the new year, new session. And as you know, when session is ending, there are new appointments to be done. So everything was done online because we just had 10 days to begin the session. I did not want any, breaks in between. I wanted a very smooth flow of the session. Plus, being a new school, we had a lot of new parents associated with us. We had a lot of children who had not even seen the school life at all, especially in our school. So we, rather than being reactive, we thought we have to be more structured. So we took up orientation for the parents. We took parents and teachers into consideration. So we thought that all the stakeholders of the school, students, parents, teachers, we all need to be on the same platform. We, ensured the parents that learning will not stop whatever may come. And from 4th April onwards, we started with Zoom. But before that, we gave a lot of training. We made the parents comfortable. We made the teachers comfortable. And we taught them how to actually access technology for learning purposes. Because before that, technology was never accessed for learning. 1 month into the Zoom, and we got to listen a lot of, uncertainties and a lot of, safety issues regarding the children. And before the summer vacation, we thought of shifting to MS Teams. So we took the license, we created IDs of all the children, did a lot of capacity building, teacher trainings, and ensured that every child, and took the children first because children learn technology the best. There were a lot of queries regarding the, connectivity, because a lot of children had, traveled back to their hometown also. A lot of parents faced, the device issues. So, but then slowly and gradually, I think everything was on track. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we were already experiential school. We were doing project-based learning. To do, those kind of activities was very essential because we had to take care of socio-emotional aspects as well for the teachers as well as for the students.
Awesome.
I ensured that we have circle time at least once a week so that the teacher and the student. So I believe that teachers got to know more about the children during the pandemic. They knew the children. They could see the parents face to face every day. They knew who's their pet and who's in the family. And we ensured that every day the class begins with a prayer Every day they have yoga sessions because they were small children, and they had not come to the school. So we had only those children, who had attended the school, and few had not even seen the school. They just came once. So my take was that I will only do synchronous type of teaching, no in asynchronous. So synchronous made us, connect with the students on a daily basis. We prepared a timetable in such a manner that they have their co-scholastic as well as scholastic, balanced. And we ensure that learning happens. So in that process of learning, until date, it's been now almost 10, 11 months, we have explored, you name any platform, whether it is a virtual tour to any place in abroad, or it's a Flipgrid or a Padlet or a Wakelet or a Kahoot quiz, and even assessments have been going online.
Amazing.
Beautiful
I think
journey.
you will go on to become a trainer for many other principals, it seems, with this kind of.
And I must definitely mention that in the lockdown, we had our CBSE inspection for affiliation as well.
Wow.
So, in fact, I take it as an opportunity rather than, a pandemic where we are all stuck.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing and sharing with so much of your heart, because I'm sure your heart and your mind got into all this implementation. Yeah. How did you or your school do things, ma'am? Anuradha, ma'am? How did you go about things? Since you're on the school topic, we come.
Oh, yes. I was so intently listening to what Sangeeta ji was saying, and I was, just recalling. I got transported back to March 2020 and how, we all went through this journey. So here, I think practically, we all as progressive schools had a similar experience. So what I would say here is that few things that really helped us go through this time in a very effective manner was that, our team. So we are very dynamism is at the core of our team. So we are such people in our school that whenever we make a program, the next year, we will never, go back and implement the same program. We will always rework. Proactive attitude, dynamism, trust. These are the things which essentially, I would say, constitute GD Goenka Sector 48 Gurugram. So because we had that kind of an attitude, and Charuji, you are also familiar with a lot of the programs that we run in our school. So that really helped us quickly make different teams. Like Sangeeta ji said that while we immediately, so we started our session from 23rd of March because that's what we had planned. So we started with that. And we went on Zoom, but parallelly a second team constituted to look at, because we knew Zoom is not something that is going to work very long. We have to have a composite platform where there is complete correlation between the technology, the teacher, the student, and everyone's work coming together. So there we started doing our research, and we came across that for us, Google Classroom would work very well. So while the classes were going on in Zoom, and we made use of the asynchronous and synchronous material both, because, I am quite, as a team, we believe a lot in flipped learning. So let the children have the, information and content first, and then the teacher sits down to discuss it. So that's been a boon of this 1 year that we've gone through. And then before we got transported to the Google Classroom, we made sure that our classrooms were made. So it was like, celebrate decorating your classrooms, have your dashboards in place, had the teacher training done for, 5 days. So classrooms were set. And then we called in the parents. So we had the parent induction to the Google Classroom because, everybody needs to know their role. While there is a role that the admin people will play, there is a role that the teachers will play, there is a role that the parents will play, there is a role that the students will play. So had those Google Meets before we introduced our children to the Google Classroom. So it was like we completely equipped every aspect of it and then went on. And then, of course, after that, there was no looking back, whether it was our summer program, Center of Excellence program, it went completely online. And we added Goenka Broadway to it, which was such a superb hit. Having children work on projects, filmmaking, movie making, because we had to make sure that our children stay aligned with us. It was very important to take everybody along, because that's the only way that we will be able to go through it, staying connected. So the whole emphasis was on that. We had our staff rooms made in the month of July because we knew teachers need each other. You see, there has to be a common place where you can share, where you can interact, and that made out, because otherwise hours were going on stretching. So with that, we were able to restrict in terms of a common time. We also had capacity building time made for teachers. We had, because we undertook all those practices. So as early as July, we were, invited as a model school to share our best practices with the Jamia Millia group of schools, where we took about 3 sessions of 1.5 hours each to share practices there, which was again a motivator for teachers. You see, when you had a team of 30, 40 teachers going and sharing what they're doing, using all of these quizzes and simulations and all sort of technology. So there was no looking back from there, and we kept adding, until date. Of course, now as we are moving on to the hybrid model, so I would say that what normally would have taken 10 years for us to learn, and the kind of changes we were able to achieve it in these 10 months, and looking forward to carry it forward. So
I'm a firm believer that in adversity character shines, and I think that is exactly what you're saying. What could have taken 10 years to achieve has been done right now, because when forced to the wall, I think each one of us had to innovate and develop and ideate, so to say. Wonderful to hear this, Anuradha ma'am. Kanchi ma'am, what happened at the university level? Because at a university level, the scale of things is is very different. What did you see getting
Absolutely,
implemented?
Charu, I actually changed jobs in the middle of the pandemic, so I can talk about 2 universities and how they did it. So they were both very, very proactive. The first thing that everyone thought of was the safety of the students, right? Sending them home, like Sweety said, and being very proactive with that. With that came a lot of challenges, because the university spaces are fortunately actually very more diverse. Right? We have students from different socioeconomic backgrounds, coming from different regions, coming from across the country. So we had some students who went back to areas which were pandemic ridden, like they were containment zones. People went back to their villages where they didn't have access to Wi-Fi and modems. And so the university was very, very empathetic, made sure that we, provided them with laptops, with modems to connect to the university and all. So the first challenge, of course, with the universities like ours are that it's a very experiential learning place of study. And to sort of replicate that, that experience was the biggest challenge initially. But I think we went way beyond what we were offering in the physical space, and we could do much more. I've seen that at Plaksha. They were, conducting these 2 programs called TLF, the Fellowship, and the Young Tech Scholars Program, and and technology is so project driven, right? It's so hands-on, but like ma'am was saying before me, every crisis is really an opportunity. And I think we got the opportunity to reach out to a far bigger community of faculty and from across the world. So I don't know how many of you attended the Infinity conference that we had. We had people signing in from San Francisco, from Tokyo, from Singapore, from across the place. We got corporates, we got faculty, scholars signing in, interacting with students, with school leaders. And the same happened at the classroom level also. So earlier we would fly down people from MIT, from Harvard to teach the kids, probably we would get two faculty members. But now the canvas sort of broadened, we had so many people, access to so many of them. Plus, I know schools don't use Zoom a lot, but universities do. Zoom provides you with amazing opportunities like breakout rooms, like quizzes, like polls. So all that sort of upped the game by manifold, So breakout rooms were great because we had teaching assistants who would take students in smaller groups. People would engage. In fact, we've had theater workshops, we've had robotics workshops, we shipped the kits to children to their homes, and they sat in front of the computer and learned and did it themselves. So it was just as hands-on as it was supposed to be. But this one-on-one mentorship, this one-on-one guest sessions, those increased because we had more access to more people. And I think this has really been a boon for us. Plaksha is a technology university, and our job is to stay ahead of all emerging technologies. I think we've done that fantastically. And we have regular lectures from the Silicon Valley and this and that. And I'm so happy to say that this has really turned out to be a boon for us. And we will move forward to a blended kind of a learning environment where we'll have as many students, if not more, who are learning online, students who are doing the contact programs. And it's also, I mean, I can't end without saying that, it's also opening up of these universities to students from far and beyond,
Wow.
and have the opportunity to study with us.
Yeah, so this blurring of boundaries is, I think, something that everybody's been talking about. And since you have seen the growth of liberal arts education in the country very, very closely, first that, and then a combination with online learning, and now you're saying you're going to move to the blended learning format. Where do you think higher ed in the country will actually be headed? I mean, overall.
I think, like I said, it's going to be blended learning, right? A lot of universities have already done it. UC Berkeley, MIT has this open courseware where thousands and thousands of students are signing in and taking up courses. We've all done courses during the pandemic. I have myself done courses that I never had time for, right? So I think it's an opening up of the education resources that is going to be so fantastic. We'll all have the opportunity of learning. Plaksha imagines that in the next few years, we maybe will have 5,000 students on campus, but 50,000 learning online with us. So I think that's where this whole world is moving towards, to open courseware, to learning which knows no boundaries.
Okay. But then do you think there will be any relevance of these degrees, so to say, or everybody would be doing short-term courses?
No, I think it's skills over degrees, definitely. Already, as somebody who's recruiting people, as somebody who has been recruited multiple times, I know degrees don't matter. I don't remember in my last 3 jobs anyone ever looking at my degrees. It's the skills that you come with, it's what you bring to the table, and I think all this is going to add to it. You will have transcripts instead of degrees, which will talk about what all skills you've picked up, where you've picked them up from, what kind of projects you've done. So, charting out a whole career pathway rather than just saying, okay, I did my education, now I start my jobs. But it has to be a continuous education, continuous upskilling for your entire life. And I think that's what universities are looking at, that if you're an alumni of a particular university, you can always come back and upskill yourself whenever and wherever in your career or in your life you are. And I think that's what universities are really moving to.
Wow, that's so beautiful, and it's a great time to be born, believe you me. And in fact, programs like hospitality, of course, require very high touch points, in terms of physical engagement. Or how then will the new world order change and in education look for you at the Indian School of Hospitality? Or will remote teaching actually work? I mean, how will you teach someone? I know a lot of cooking classes are happening on YouTube and otherwise, but then what about the other things?
So the pandemic has made everybody a chef, every house these days.
That's true.
But going beyond just culinary or it's a lot of business. But not take away the fact that truly hospitality and culinary arts are those programs where they're hands-on and there are touch points. And especially so because our ethos is experiential, where we teach every management strategy, innovation, everything about business, even in an experiential way. It's really important for students to be hands-on. And how has this panned out over the last year? is there came a point where Haryana government announced that colleges could open. We were very happy. We were based out of Haryana, and we did open as per the regulations with proper assessment of protocols, and we've been open since October.
Okay.
Campus is very much open since October, and we had batches come in. Our senior most batch come first, then the second batch, and the latest batch of 2020 came in only in November. And when they came in batches. They came with a proper protocol, and they adapted. They started. They caught up on what practicals they had missed out on. But the truth was that they were already up to speed. With regards to the concepts. So it was only the practicals that they needed equipment for, which was not available at home, or opportunities of facilitation in groups, which was not really available for them, or they could not adapt to closely with, is something that the campus gave them, along with technology, of course. So going forward, like Kanchi said, and I think this blended learning is going to be the new way, where students can choose to take a certain amount of education online and will then come on campus for more experiential, more collaborative work, more group work, and implementation under supervision is something that will happen, which will be the new normal. Hospitality, for hospitality especially, there's no going away from classroom can do to you, but much like what Kanchi said, we could actually, pandemic gave us an opportunity to take that entire experiential learning of exposure to corporates and MDs and CEOs and people who've been there, done that, even more. This pandemic, because now if nobody had to travel to your campus, you just had to take these 1 hour out of their schedules. They were more available. Students were receptive. Students, we had a lot of attendance. We had people connecting from all parts of the world, Indian subcontinent primarily, and a lot of learning. Learning didn't stop, and it will continue.
Learning should continue, but it's like they say, you can't get a haircut online. So for some things, you definitely have to move. Yeah, so I'm glad that universities are actually looking at this connection and seeing how this blended learning can really collaborate. But I also feel that somewhere the teaching workforce has to also somewhere graduate and move to the next level. And I think, Anuradha ma'am, you pointed out very poignantly that, there are ways in which you made sure that your teaching workforce was really well equipped. But are they really ready for the new normal, where it's not just the student who's going to be attending the class, sometimes the whole family is attending the class now. And what are some of the tools that the school can use to make it useful for both the teacher and the taught? What is it that you think will work in the coming future?
So reflecting on the experience that we've had in this year, where a lot of new things got created and newness came into, was like, every day is a new day for us. If we look at the previous session gone by, because what worked in the month of April would not work in May. And once we closed the schools for 15 days, we had to reopen. We could not continue with the same in July, because children being at home and even parents, there was something new that everybody required. And the teachers, therefore, that belief in connecting with students, connecting with parents, connecting with the newness. So to keep teachers prepared, motivated for that, that was something that the leadership had as a challenge, as something that you have to be ready with. So to do that, right from the beginning. So like Sweety said and Kanchi said, so we also made those connections. So when we wanted our children to do research-based projects, so now, how do you do research? What are the tools that you have to use? How do you help children, make a presentation for their research paper? So we had, someone from Curtin University who has a lot of research students, and years of experience coming and taking the first session with our teachers, which was very inspiring. They're getting an altogether new direction there. So constantly upgrading the skills, keeping the teachers motivated, making them believe in that, this self-growth is adding a lot of value to you. See, at the end of the day, whatever I may be saying that I'm doing for my school or for my students, but it is first of all benefiting me. So this is the thought process that we have kept earlier, but more so now, and made sure that constantly our teachers are encouraged to make themselves, to upgrade their knowledge, their skills, and their touch points with the technology. So, those workshops, and the ones who go and attend workshops, we make sure that they come and take sessions with other teachers, creating those kind of provisions. So like I said, we had a 3 to 4 time every day dedicated for capacity building of teachers. And there also, every day there was a fixed agenda. So there was a day when you would sit as a department and discuss what is required, how you can enhance your teaching, learning, learn from each other's experience. Because as you rightly said, that when you have the parents sitting beside the student, it's a big responsibility. So you have to share experience with each other. You have to share knowledge with each other. Then one day sitting, teachers of a particular class sitting together. Then one day we had the capacity building session being taken by the teachers who would go and attend other sessions. Then, we had so many webinars. So one day sitting together and just attending that webinar, I myself got into taking workshops as part of a CBSE resource person, because, CBSE has become very proactive in terms of teacher training. They have a very futuristic outlook. Whatever we are doing as part of NEP, making the pedagogical plan, inclusion of technology. So we are being prepared very well. So as a leader myself of the institute, as I got into being a resource person for CBSE and taking these workshops, so it automatically had that impact on the entire school, with the middle level management. I mean, the wing in charges also getting aligned with that. So everyone taking a lead is what is leading to the preparation of the teachers, taking them along, empowering them. I think that's very, very important. Like Excellent. I said, if you believe in what you are doing, and if you understand that the first beneficiary of growth is me, myself, then comes my institute. So with that thought process, when you proceed, you are bound to look forward and enjoy that journey. So I think that's how we've been working, and I can absolutely take pride in what the whole team has achieved, and everyone coming together and how they are enjoying doing what they are doing. And so this has also become an opportunity for us to reach out to parents with so many programs that we were doing in our school, but somehow, because you can't invite parents for everything. So they saw those programs, that how those skill-based programs, competency-based programs, student-run clubs. So our students prepared the curriculum. They've been running those clubs. They've been calling people from everywhere as experts. So those experiences have actually led to a lot of growth for the teaching workforce, which has actually trickled down to the students and the participation of the parents as well into that. So I hope
like they say, definitely, ma'am. Like they say in the army, they say that, first comes the safety and security of your country, then of your men, and then of yourself. Yeah. However, in this case, you're very right in saying you need to first elevate the human being, which is teacher, which is empower the teacher, and then everything else percolates back into the institution. And then finally, it leads into, citizenship building or building of a nation in that sense. So I think teachers have done a beautiful job this last year. And I think if there were some awards that could be assigned in this Republic Day only for teachers, that would have been wonderful. But let's also look at, I can see that we are all sold out on technology. We are all sold out on, how it's changing the way we are doing our work and how we are changing lives going forward. But let's start with you, Mr. Dhamija. What about the perils of technology? Have you come across a situation where a parent has refused to take up online classes or has made it very difficult for you, and has, something really not so good has come out of the situation? And what about
as I mentioned, initially there were certain hiccups regarding the devices. but I think they were all wanting that continuous learning should happen. So parents were our partners, and definitely, they were looking up to the school, that the school will come up with something. And as I said, we wanted synchronous learning. So we never worked on WhatsApp or any other platform. So, but only a few parents of pre-nursery children, they had problems that, ma'am, my child doesn't want to sit, with the laptop or with the phone for at least not even an hour. So we suggested that probably you could put it on the TV or, show them. So I think there were cases where they were a little reluctant, and we also agreed to it, because to make a 3-4-year-old child sit with technology was not possible.
Yeah.
So we started, classes at different time, during the day. So we had in the morning, then in the afternoon, and in the evening, because there were certain working parents who wanted class after 6:30, so that they could sit with the child. So still, we call it Little Millenium. So we have, pre-nursery, nursery, and KG classes. So the LM children, I think we faced a problem, but it was a genuine problem, and we also didn't want children to sit, on the screen for such a long time. But otherwise, it was a smooth flow from grade 1 onwards. In fact, they were more eager, and in MS Teams, the student would start the class before the teacher. And the best part was that the teacher is scheduling the class at 9 a.m. and, I get a notification, since I'm the administrator of the system, at 8:50, so-and-so has started the class, because that was the me time for them. So they never got to chat with their classmates. So in fact, technology was more helpful in maintaining discipline, I would say. And they could connect in a much better way with their classmates, and as well as with the teacher.
Amazing.
We did a lot of international projects. We did sustainable development goals, climate action projects with technology. And surprisingly, the Little Millennium children also connected, because they celebrated Christmas online with their counterparts in different countries. So I think we covered up, later on when we did our projects, and when we had classes as per the parents' wishes, and so that the parent could sit with them. So I think all in all, it was a good time that we have spent with children. Of course, there will be learning gaps, and in every school there will be learning gaps. And now we have to ensure that those gaps are filled when they physically come to the school.
Mm-hmm. That's heartening to know, because there have been, of course, other kinds of stories doing the rounds which have not been as positive. But then, as long as a school you've been able to take care of the perils of technology, that's wonderful to know. But even in your illustrious career as a leader principal, ma'am, Anuradha ma'am, did you ever think that EdTech would become so prominent, or that you would be thinking about things like remote test security or live proctoring of exams and such like things?
So, to that, I would only say that, the statement that I made earlier, that probably what we have done in these 10 months under normal circumstances to reach that point, we may have taken 10 years. So, of course, technology has been a very, very integral part of the progress of schools, with smart classrooms, and every classroom equipped with a computer and audios and a video system, projector, etc. So that has been in use ever since our school came into existence. We started with that. But definitely the pace that we had in this last 1 year, where we had to actually rightly so think of the ways to have an examination, a fair system of examination. How do you monitor students? How do you make sure that you are effectively testing their knowledge, their concepts, and their learning outcomes? So surely this is not something that, in my 30 years, I had ever envisioned that we'll reach this stage. But again, it's an opportunity that we got, that some things that we could not think of. You see, in the last 2-3 years, if we think of, there have been a lot of disruptions where, because of the, pollution or any such problem, we've had to have shutdowns. especially across the NCR, Delhi NCR. And at that time, I'm sure Zoom was existing, but we never thought of an option that, we would make videos, we would share it with our students. So we were doing that, you see. So partially we were ready because these, disruptions were coming our way, especially in the last 2-3 years, where we would have planned something and suddenly, the school closure is announced. But to sustain it for a year, where everything has to be carried online. Imagine, we've had our annual continuing online. We've had all ceremonies online. We've, you think of it and we've done it. But yes, it's actually been a lot.
But has giving exams been a challenge? Has taking and giving of exams been a challenge? Do you think exams are even relevant in today's time?
Again, you see how we look at it, Charushilla ji, at this point of time. So when we are talking of assessment, so there is assessment of learning, which is in the form of a term and examination. But there are two more types of assessments, which is assessment for learning, which is formative in nature, which is as a child does something, you assess, and whatever are the gaps in learning, those are addressed and bridged. And there is assessment as learning, where whatever the child is doing, as the child is doing, you are looking at it. So we really used a lot of tools of assessment for learning and assessment as learning. So this research-based projects, portfolios were developed. We introduced what we call as a LEAP class, which is learner engagement for enhanced academic progression. Now, this is something that we created. We are, generally. So here, what we did, we divided our class into 2 parts. So we would have one set coming in the morning. Okay. And with that, we started with every such class would have a 10-minute assessment at the end. So our first term assessments were not merely the assessment of learning, that is what you've done, but there were multiple assessments that were carried out throughout the term because we knew, you see, while you hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. So we knew that if this kind of a situation continues, we can't start thinking in the month of September, now how do I conduct my exams? So every LEAP class, we had an assessment of 10 marks and then took its average. Then we had a Viva assessment. Then we had a multiple tests, a multiple choice question assessment. We also had written, long written assignments being done in the LEAP class and being assessed by the teacher then and there. So dividing them into groups, giving them tasks, and then taking the average of all this so that a fair picture, you see, what is the purpose of assessment? We should be able to gauge whether the child has achieved the desired learning outcome or not. So the examination, the year-end examination or the term-end examination is not the only way to do that. Even now, how we are planning our assessments for the senior children is that we are having some online and some offline.
Amazing.
So, the offline ones are the ones which will be carried forward. The concepts which are being carried forward to 12, there we have to be very, very particular that whether the child has, achieved the desired level of learning or not, so that they don't have a problem in their 10th and 12th. The rest of it is online. So again, there was a lot of innovation that we brought into our assessments using the assessment tools of observations, rubrics, portfolios.
My God, I really hope, other schools as well as the ministry is really listening to you today, because you have really truly outlined what assessments really need to be and be all about. But I'm sure even at a university level, this is to anyone who wants to take up this question, the student recruitment has evolved, how you're evolving. So what do you really tell parents? What will win? The technology will win or the teacher will win? Tutoring will win or tailor-making programs? College location or course relevance has become important. So where are universities putting their resources? Anyone who would like to take up?
Sweety, why don't you go ahead first?
Thank you, Kanchi. So it's a very good question. I think there is no choosing between, it has to be a balance of both. whether it's college location, whether it is relevance of the program, or it is tutoring, or it is tailor making. There has to be a balance of two, because the idea is for the learner to be able to have the best learning experience, for which each one of these dimensions has a role to play. You cannot be in the boondocks and expect the student to get the kind of exposure that he deserves at the higher education level from the industry for preparedness to become employable. So that is important. At the same time, your curriculum has to be continuously evolved to make sure that there is no gap between what you are teaching and what really is happening on ground. So there's no choice between two. Everything is important, and we need to strike a balance between the two, much like on campus plus online classes. It has to be blended. And to take to Anuradha ma'am's point about 10 months to 10 years and the transgression, I think COVID-19 has pushed us in a direction where, because we did not know how long it was going to last and what it really was, that we've all stretched our minds and imaginations to adapt immediately. And that adaptation is only going to keep continuously growing. New ways, we still don't know. Not everybody is back on campus. Blended continues. So I think innovation at K12 level, at higher education level, is going to improvise itself, learn from what we have experienced over the last 12 months, and continuously evolve. From research methods to making sure that the students are getting the best exposure possible from their homes, to making all of this a reality, a possibility, and then coming out as winners that are not only employable, but actually the future leaders. So that is the thing that I think.
Okay. Well said, Sweety. Yes, Ms. Kanchi.
I'll just add to it. I absolutely agree with what Sweety is saying. But if you look at the way I look at it is, and the way a lot of scholars look at it is, that learning has three parts to it. One is the information, out of which you develop knowledge, and then you become a wiser person, right? So knowledge, information should be available freely to everyone who needs access to it. Nobody should have a right over information. Knowledge is created in the classroom when those concepts are discussed. Knowledge will come out of the discussions that the teachers, the teaching assistants, and the students will have together. I've had a few conversations with some faculty members, and they say, we don't think of students as students anymore. We think of them as junior colleagues, because we are all creating knowledge in the classroom. And we hope that this knowledge will lead to the wisdom of the child, the student, the learner, right? So it's information, knowledge, and wisdom, and I think they should happen. And the teacher is not going anywhere. Technology can only be the facilitator. That having said, college location is important to the extent that it should provide collaboration opportunities for students. Students should be able to interact with other universities, other colleges, students across, so that their learning is that much more enriched, rather than just learning amongst a small peer group. So peer interactions is very important, but then also extending that peer group to a larger audience, I think, to a larger engagement area is very, very important. That's why, say, if you're in the middle of an education hub, there are other universities around, that just makes it so much more exciting for the student, right? And yes, tailor-made programs, I would say, and not the mass education is the future. Every student will have to and should have the opportunity to learn what his or her interests are, to combine those interests, because no innovation will happen when multiple people study the same thing. I think innovation always happens at the cusp of interests. I'm interested in art and mathematics. I will innovate because I'm passionate about these two. So if you just put me in, say, a BBA course, which like 70,000 or 7 lakh kids are doing across the country, I'm just primarily studying what everyone is studying and not really exploring myself. So yes, tailor-made. Yes to going beyond a particular institution for your learning. I think that's important.
Beautiful, ma'am. And why don't you also share your growth message? We are coming to the closure of the session. Your growth message on adapting and contributing to this K12 and higher education.
So if it's a message for students, I would say this is the most exciting time that education has seen in the last few decades. Enjoy it, learn and learn as much as you can from wherever you can. And but remember, whatever you learn, you also need to be conscious of society, conscious of your impacts on environment, conscious of your contribution towards these. And if you keep those in mind, we need students, we need young people to step up and make India what we really want it to be.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, would you like to share a message, Ms. Sangeeta?
So I mentioned about the VUCA world that we are in. So using the same acronym, I would like to say that rather than volatility, it should be the vision in the right direction, based on focused people, making informed choices, communicating constantly, and maintaining a strategic long-term perspective. Rather than uncertain, I would say it should be understanding, feeling, getting empathetic towards people, and understanding the students and all the stakeholders of the institute. It should not be complex. There should be clarity, and there should be simplifying the events around us, our intuition, trusting each other. And in place of ambiguous, I would say it has to be adaptability.
All right.
We have all adapted to the new VUCA world. And I believe that we are more empowered now.
Definitely. As someone was mentioning to me, stop promoting and start communicating. And that's what at least we found ourselves doing as part of an enterprise, was reaching out to parents and just assuring everything will be fine. Everything is fine as long as you're safe in your homes as such.
So I feel it's a boon, that we have moved, especially in the education world, we have moved so much ahead with respect to technology, which would have taken years, and we have been talking about it quite often, but nobody had, the time or the guts to probably move so ahead in technology, which has just happened in just 10 months.
Yes, we are resilient people now. You know that, definitely. Sweety, would you like to share a growth message?
My only thought to all the students who are connected with us, parents that are connected to us, is whatever stream you choose, just make sure you enjoy it, because this time doesn't come back. And if you're enjoying it, nobody can stop you from succeeding. So, and like Kanchi said, like Sangeeta ma'am said, have the social responsibility as a cornerstone of whatever you're thinking, because that's what is the most important thing for us as human beings today.
Beautiful. And Anuradha ma'am, your last message to the students.
Okay. So I think in this last 1 year, our children have shown a lot of resilience. They have really stood by us in this time. And I just want to extend a message to them that children, this experience of 1 year that you have gone through will actually pay you a lot in the life. Because the skills that you have acquired, the experiences that you have acquired will really help you be a great human being in the years to come. So you got the education for life in these years, which is the vision of NEP. So you are equipped for life. You are better equipped for life, dear children.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think this panel has been full of inspiring quotes and inspiring people, and that goes down to show your leadership and the way you have steered your organization forward. And really thank you for sharing these beautiful nuggets. I would maybe want to just summarize and say that, we talked about trust, we talked about how to deal with the VUCA world, we talked about how research and Edtech can actually benefit, of course, our growth and our learnings in our institutions. We also talked about how the blurring of boundaries has actually led us to imagine a world where maybe 5,000 students will be on campus, but 50,000 will be actually pursuing programs from a particular university. We also spoke of skills over degrees and also LEAP classrooms, which is such a wonderful concept, where, what was the full form again, ma'am, for LEAP?
learner engagement for enhanced academic progression.
Beautiful. Look at that. So we have innovated, we've come up with our own branding for things. And I think this is a beautiful time where, yes, we soak in knowledge, but we also understand that information is readily available, whereas wisdom is something that comes with time. So let's continue to raise wise children and nurture the human beings that come into our contact. Thank you so much for continuing to be this adaptive audience for this changing world. And good luck to each one of you. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart to be part of this session. And thank you, IXI Summit, for making this happen. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Charushilla ji. Indeed a pleasure.
Yes, same here.
Thank you.
I think we can all exit backstage.